Administration have cast some blame for the rise in prices on oil companies. They have pushed back.
Demand has risen. We've had the price shock of Russia invading Ukraine. There are various factors that go into the price of oil, but we're not setting that price.
Analysts say while the pain is very real right now, they believe prices will eventually go back down.
When you look into the forward markets in terms of where the market is trading oil and gas months from now.
Folks, there's a ton of news about the fourth stimulus payment that you're going to want to know in this video, so continue watching. So folks, here is the news that you have to know about the fourth stimulus payments because there's a ton of news to cover. If support is growing for more stimulus checks this year, economists have even confirmed that the vast majority of Americans should receive additional stimulus by the end of 2022. So while the crisis began early 2020, the aftermath is still hanging around with the inflation rates affecting so many Americans. The government actually started sending out payments up to $1,200 and followed by $600, and now we're needing $2,000 stimulus payments just for people to get by. And according to a recent survey, the government immediately following the second round of payments, Joe Biden came into office and launched the American Rescue Plan and provided $1,400 payments. So millions of people, lawmakers, and Congress continue to advocate for another round of relief. Because due to higher than average inflation rates this year, according to a survey, 62% of Americans are in favor of more stimulus in 2023. While the majority of the population is in favor of relief, 16% remain undecided and 22% are not in support of stimulus. Due to higher than average inflation rates, Americans have had to cut back their spending, and so many states took it upon themselves to provide this stimulus aid. As of now, 19 states have approved a bill to offer tax refunds to their residents before the end of 2021. So these payments range from $50 to $3,200 just for eligible people. And now, folks, many qualified Americans in the state of Alaska will receive a $3,200 direct payment. The Alaska legislature adopted a budget earlier this year. It includes $3,200 in payouts for qualified people by the end of the year. And according to the Alaska Public Media, the first round of this direct payments has actually begun to arrive in bank accounts this past fall, and paper checks are also continuing to be sent out. State officials have said that increased payments are necessary to do and deal with inflation, and rising energy prices and gas must be put down. Some states are obligated to disperse any excess funds, with residents instead reinvesting the money into the economy. So when it's too early to just determine whether states will have access to another stimulus package this year, many of the states are already doing their own thing. Employees in a school district in Maryland can expect extra cash because of the state and the city. Officials have said that around $1,000 is going out on December 16th to people who qualify for the stimulus, and Rhode Island is just sending a one-time payment of $250 per child. Households can receive a payment of up to 3 dependent children for a maximum of $750. And even the child tax rebate, everybody, began distribution in October. Taxpayers who file their state tax returns on extension by October 22 will receive the rebates in December of this year. And earlier this year, the Oregon legislature approved a one-time $600 stimulus check. Taxpayers got a lot of money this time, and so many people received the stimulus money that they need.
The Budget Office and the Joint Committee on Taxation released a report of the true cost of a permanent expansion. And it's pretty shocking for a number of reasons. First is the financial cost. By expanding the Obamacare premium tax credits and making them permanent, Democrats will add $248 billion to the federal deficit over the next decade. Mr. President, at my age and your age, we're not going to be the ones that have to pay that money back. But these young people sitting down here are going to have to pay the price for the profligate spending today. And all Americans will pay the price by adding fuel to the fire of inflation. For whatever reasons I really can't fathom, the federal debt and the national debt are of no concern to our Democratic colleagues. They simply don't seem to care. They act as though we're playing with monopoly money that we can print and borrow like there is no tomorrow, because none of this really matters. But we know that's not true. Every dollar we spend is paid for by taxpayers, and every ounce of debt we accrue will be carried and repaid by our children and our grandchildren. But none of this seems to matter to our friends across the aisle. They're still plowing ahead with this legislation, and unfortunately, the irresponsible spending isn't even the worst part. Our colleagues claim this extension will allow more Americans to afford health care. But the Congressional Budget Office and the Joint Committee on Taxation told us that under this plan, some 2.3 million Americans will lose their current coverage provided by their employer. 2.3 million Americans will lose their coverage provided currently by their employer. Hardworking Americans whose health insurance is currently covered by their employers would be told, you're on your own now, and no matter what you negotiated, when you negotiated your salary with your employer, if you're a union member and subject to a collective bargaining agreement where your union negotiated a generous health care plan, all of that will be in jeopardy by this reckless expansion of the Obamacare subsidies. Our Democrat friends want to continue subsidizing health care for six-figure earners. People earning 750% of the federal poverty level would be eligible for taxpayer-funded subsidies. 750% of the poverty level, you'd get cash from Uncle Sam. Our country would be essentially paying wealthy people to lose their current employer-provided health care so they can end up on the government subsidy. This is simply crazy policy, driving up the deficit, kicking people off of their employer-provided health plans, forcing taxpayers to subsidize health insurance for the rich. This isn't about helping the uninsured. It's a backdoor way to implement Medicare for all. Yes, Joe Biden may be president, but it's the Bernie Sanders agenda at work here.
$1 trillion swing. President Obama comes in first year. He reduces the deficit, which is what contributes to national debt, by $700 billion.
Are stimulus checks going to be sent out immediately? Well, there has been new released information on $2,000 stimulus checks. The lawmakers are now negotiating on $100 stimulus payments. The gas prices are soaring nationwide, and AAA reports that the national average cost of a gallon of gas hit $5.16 as of June 14th. This is the all-time record high price, and since many people cannot eliminate gasoline usage or even significantly cut down their fuel costs, these surging prices have hit hard. As a result, lawmakers are naturally considering ways to provide relief, including potentially sending out another stimulus payment. Proposals to help the public cope with gas prices exist at the federal level as well as in some states. One plan put forth on the federal level, for example, is called the Gas Rebate Act of 2022. It would provide a monthly rebate during any month when the national average cost of gas is $4 or more. The rebate would last through the end of 2022 and would total $100 per adult and per dependent for single filers earning less than $75,000 or joint filers